Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Thursday, August 20th, 2020. And today's top stories, transitioning to retirement for one school superintendent and paying it forward, helping teachers become financially secure. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Jack Stoskoff Jr. He's the former assistant superintendent for DC Everest Schools, and he's also the president of Money Site Coach. Jack, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to join you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's great to talk to you again. We talked to you on the podcast several months ago. You were just retiring from being a long-standing assistant superintendent in the district. So before we kind of get into what you're doing now in the transition to retirement, look, all the news is trying to reopen, a lot of the news, I should say, is trying to reopen schools. What's your take on this very difficult decision for school superintendents, leaders, political officials? What's your take on this, especially in your district?
Well, Jeff, there's a lot to talk about with regards to this because we have thousands of school districts all over the country, thousands of superintendents and administrative teams trying to figure out what to do that's best for continuing to educate kids, yet keep everybody safe. And I think the biggest challenge that they have is you have different groups of people. You have students. Some of them are afraid to come back to school. Some of them would prefer full-time online. Some would be okay with a blended situation. And there are some students who want to fully come back to school full-time. Then you have a group of teachers and administrators and school staff people who feel the same way. I think we should do it online. I think we should do it blended. I think we should bring all the kids back full time. Yeah. Then you have parents with varying views of, I want my kids to stay home. I don't want to send them into that environment. I'm okay with blended. I need to send them back full time. I have to work. I can't care for my kids at home. I can't afford daycare. For many kids, their school lunch is the biggest meal they get for the day. Yep. So then you have people's views about what we should do or what's best for them or their family or their children or their working situation. So it's a big mess that has to be figured out. And the thing that I feel bad about is whatever the final decision school boards and superintendents make, without fail, there are going to be people who are unhappy with the decisions that they make, which is really unfortunate because people are really trying to do what's best. Yeah. Education is important, but keeping people safe is certainly important too.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
Into all that, people's different views about the virus itself and the scale of the virus itself. So
yeah, I think you're right.
You take that education piece and you take that education piece and set it over here. Then you have operational issues that most people don't think about. For example, transportation, food service. What are your cleaning and sanitization plans that you have? And so what we're doing at DC Everest, and I think the team there since I've left has put together an outstanding plan, is the elementary. We've started a virtual school. So those people who want the choice to go fully virtual can do it, and we will provide that education. And we have that K-12, which is outstanding. Big heavy lift to put that in place. And then elementary school K-5 will go to school every day if they don't do virtual, but they've hired extra teachers and they've reduced the class sizes and they're maximizing the use of space and then putting all kinds of measures in place to keep kids safe and teachers safe. Then what's really unique, I think, about DC Everest is for their 6, 7, 8, 9, they came up with a unique plan where, because 6th, 7th, and 8th, 9th graders can probably stay home without daycare. They're old enough, so it's not as much of a burden for the family. So they'll split them into 2 cohorts. One group will go Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday to school. And Tuesday, Thursday, and the every other Friday, they'll be online with their teachers. And then the other cohort will go opposite Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday, which is a really good plan. So people have multiple choices to be safe, to still get a good education, and to choose how they want their families to learn and provide opportunities for parents to hopefully still work. And then the situation they're offering at the high school is even broader than that and more accommodating for students and families.
Yeah, I think you make a good point that regardless of what the decisions are, you can't make everybody happy. There's compromise there. I think people are doing the best they can, and it's going to vary district to district depending on the impact of the virus. Jack, let's transition. I want to hear about what you're doing, and let's save that for the second segment. But let's talk about what it was like to wrap things up. You, as the audience, as I mentioned previously to the audience, you kind of wrapped things up with DC Everest and retired June 30, I believe, or was it May 30?
June 30.
June 30. So what was it like kind of getting to the point where you said, you know what, I'm going to retire, and then wrapping things up? What was that decision-making process like for you and your family, and then implementation of that?
Well, actually, it was a really tough decision because I've been in education 37 years and I absolutely love my work. From being a teacher to a technology director to an assistant superintendent, I've had wonderful jobs and thankful for that. So it's hard to decide to walk away from that because you don't know really what life is going to be like. I mean, we view retirement as this vast everyday state of being free to do what I want, when I want, if I want. And it's a wonderful thought. A reality is, you have to have, I think you have to have some sort of a plan or some sort of a mission about what you might want to do because it's not a permanent vacation. I will tell you the transition for me, I decided back in September that it would be my last year. Didn't announce it in the district until February, excuse me, because I didn't want to be what's the term we use for people?
A lame duck?
I didn't want to be a lame duck administrator, and I had such wonderful staff, it wouldn't have probably mattered anyway. But so the transition was a lot of my heavy lift work in the spring was to prepare materials and documentation, make a video library for my replacement. And so all the responsibilities that I had, you can bring someone experienced in from a different district that does a similar job, but every district does things a little bit differently in the way they run their operations. And so getting that prepared was a big job. And I've met with the gentleman that replaced me, and the transition went very, very smoothly. He's had to contact me very little this first month of July and early August, which tells me that what was left for him was helpful. So then when I retired finally, we have a little place in northern Wisconsin that I spend a lot of time at, and I bought a small piece of property up the road from my cottage and a UTV and a log splitter and a chainsaw and started cutting trees and made 7 or 8 face cords of wood so far, built a couple picnic tables, built some shelves in my garage, and prepared my property to put up a storage building. So kind of putzing, spending a lot of time on the boat, a little bit of fishing, just enjoying the North Woods, walking. My wife's a teacher, so we get to spend a lot of time in the summer. So it's been good so far.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I want to talk about it in the next segment about your new endeavor, but you're not just doing that because, as I said at the top of the segment, you're also the chief executive officer and of a money coach organization. So now you're trying to help your fellow educators, your fellow teachers get on the road to retirement and think about that as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I didn't want to retire until I was debt free. I wanted to. We have a very good pension in Wisconsin, one of the best ones in the country, and I just didn't want to be beholden to anybody when I went into retirement. So after all of my debts were paid, house and cottage paid for, everything paid for, it makes it a little more comfortable to go into retirement and not have to worry about paying your bills or funds is a really comfortable place to be. And so what I want to do is encourage other people to be able to retire in that same situation.
Yeah.
And so encouraging people to, I want to give back as well. I've done some professional development while I was working in the same vein, but to get people to understand the value in getting out of debt and talk about all the different ways that we can do that. Talk about how if we have personal financial stress, how it really affects the other wellness pieces in our life. It affects all parts of our life. And right. 67% of people go to work with some level of personal financial stress, debt on their shoulders about credit card, or how am I going to pay my student loan, or how am I going to pay my car payment, or how am I going to make the house payment, and not being prepared for an emergency that might come by, not effectively evaluating their insurances to make sure they're not spending too much on insurance, but yet have the coverages to keep them safe. And then investing for the future. And so, we can talk about saving all we want, but it's really hard to save when you have debt piled up.
Right.
So my goal is to go out and help teachers, administrators, people in private business. I have a 4-part series called No Longer Living Paycheck to Paycheck, and we talk about a wide range of things, spending leaks. Look at if somebody has for example, a $5,000 credit card debt at 17%, they're throwing their money away by paying that interest every month. So why not find a way to plug some spending leaks, whether it be Starbucks every day for $4.50 or some subscriptions that you have, television subscriptions or online subscriptions that automatically get charged to your card. Some of them you never use. And we have activities that we go through where we look at these spending leaks, not only on a daily basis, but weekly, monthly, and annually, and say, what if I cancel this subscription and now I have $700 that I could put toward my credit card and get that $5,000 credit card down to, $4,300. And then what other leaks can I spend to get that paid off, and then take that payment on that credit card and move on to the next debt. So, I mean, in 20 minutes here, we can't talk about all of it, but it's a lot of things that I like to share so that people can get themselves in a place to start to invest in a Roth or a 403B or add money. I show the power of company matching with 401ks and stuff, and how valuable it is. There's so many people who don't take advantage of the company match on the 401k, and it's because they can't afford to give up that little bit of income because they have so much debt. So if I can help people move to a place of less debt, beginning to save, setting some financial goals, some financial SMART goals, and I can help change the trajectory of someone's personal financial state by sharing some knowledge and experience with them, that'll make me feel good, and then it gives me a purpose in retirement as well.
Yeah. Well, Jack, I want to talk more about this. I want to talk about some of the challenges that teachers face today. So let's hold you over, and for the audience, we'll be right back in a few minutes. We'll be talking to Jack a little bit more, learning more about the Worksite Money Coach and what he's doing and some of the travails. So stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
If you are like 58% of Americans, you didn't go to college. Or you did, but never finished. Maybe it's the thought of a big, intimidating campus. At Independence University, all classes are held online. Maybe it's the thought of being alone in a sea of students. At Independence U, you'll get a personal support team to help you every step of the way. Maybe it's the cost of all those books and supplies. Online means no books to buy. We even give you a new laptop and tablet to keep when you graduate. Maybe your life doesn't fit typical college classes. At Independence U, our online college fits your schedule. Let's meet a few students.
Independence University held my hand through the process.
Don't be afraid to take the leap because it has changed my life drastically.
Just take the first step and you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too.
At IU, there's no barriers to your degree.
800-535-9916.
Welcome back. We're talking to Jack Stoskopf. He's the president of Worksite Money Coach. He's also the former assistant superintendent for DC Everest School District in Wisconsin. Jack, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Jeff, happy to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you as always. Great story about, leading up to retirement, what that means, the things that and then giving back. I think that's really important for a lot of people, is to do something that you find rewarding and you're passionate about, or else you're going to have difficulty getting up and doing it. So let's launch right in, because you clearly have a passion for helping others. You have so much experience as an administrator, working with teachers. What are some of the challenges that many of those individuals face, regardless of whether they work at DC Everest or they work in some place in New Mexico or in other parts of the country?
Well, Jeff, can I ask a question? Are we talking about challenges as teachers or challenges from a financial perspective?
From a financial perspective.
From a financial perspective, well, oftentimes I think one of the biggest problems that we have in the country is the student loan debt. It's just really, I think it exceeds the credit card debt that we have in the country, or very close to that. And so when we have young teachers, especially, who are coming into the field that have a student loan debt, $400, $500, $600 a month payment, excuse me, then they have to find a place to live. They have to have transportation. They have to have either renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance if they can afford to buy a house payment. The beginning teachers are between $40,000 and $46,000 is their beginning wage. In some parts of the country it's less, in some parts it might be a little bit more. But after you pay all of your taxes and your whatever fees towards your benefits that you might have, it leaves very, very little money. I mean, a teacher with a wife or a husband and 2 kids qualifies for free and reduced lunch. So the challenges are, my goal is to encourage people to do whatever they can, young people, whatever they can, to work while they're in college, to save money in college, to talk to parents and teachers about helping their children along the way. We were fortunate when my son was born, we started a 529 plan for him the first month he was born. And I think one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids is to help them to graduate from college debt free. And yet they still, I think, need to have some skin in the game. There are some people who believe, no, they'll become responsible. They need to have this debt. They need to learn how to pay it off. But I think people start underwater. So a little bit of a bird walk there. But I think student loan debt is something, if it's tended to earlier in life, can save you. I remember my student loan debt payment, $119.58 a month for 10 years. And I paid it. And I think about, what I could have done with that money if I knew then what I know now. And so what I want to do is try to take some of what I know now, share it with some of these younger people. So those are challenges that we have. A lot of teachers who spend a good share of their own money actually to support their classrooms. Mm-hmm. So they have a similar financial difficulties as everybody else. One option that they do have that's to their benefit is if they choose to teach summer school and make a little extra money, or coach a sport, or lead us. And I encourage young teachers to get involved in some of these co-curricular activities that can give them a little boost in their pay as well. But really, the concept of all the things we talked about in the first segment about getting a handle on your finances, having a personal budget, knowing where your money is going. Sometimes there's so much month left at the end of the money and people are like, where did my money go? Well, if you chart it and you pay attention to it and you kind of, work off a realistic budget where you include all your true expenses. And I find, Jeff, what some people do when they build a budget, they'll put their everyday monthly fixed expenses and estimated monthly expenses, but they don't add in the incidentals that come along, like Christmas, like every 6 months your car insurance comes due. Some of these things that are sporadic or one-time expenses throughout the year that are real expenses. I mean, I'm to the point of, I have a budget in my budget for the $200 I pay that somebody puts my shore station and boat in and out every year. It's a one-time expense. It's a small amount, but it's a real expense.
Right.
So if you don't include that, it jumps upon you. So, I think the similar challenges to everybody else. And yet I will tell you that for the most part, at least in Wisconsin for sure, a huge financial benefit for many, many teachers and administrators in school districts is that we have wonderful benefit plans here. Health insurance, our retirement system is outstanding. It's one of the top 10 in the country. It's fully funded. It's not in a deficit at all, which is outstanding. When you retire, you get a base benefit, and it will never drop below that. It typically will tip up a little bit every May, but it will never go below your retirement base, which gives people a level of security. So educating people about that as well is important, but also putting a little extra aside. So when you retire, you want to go to Europe or something, you can.
Jack, last question for this segment. And in terms of, so many Americans, I think they want to do the right thing, but it's potentially overwhelming when you have all these things coming at you. You mentioned that the teacher that starts out making $46,000 has to pay all these expenses. Sometimes we just want to bury our heads in the sand like an ostrich and just hope things go away. How do you change some of that? How do you get someone to say, I need assistance, I want to reach out to Jack, or I want to reach out to somebody, I need help? How do you communicate that to people? Because I think oftentimes we have a hard time asking for assistance from people and getting guidance, and then also paying for it.
Right. And some people don't like to ask for help for anything. They figure they can do it all on their own, but there are people out there that provide help for a reason, whether it be somebody that needs to go to a therapist or something, or has a mental health issues or money issues, or somebody needs help with a drinking problem or a drug problem or a weight loss issue. I mean, there are all kinds of resources out there for people that can help people, that can kind of redirect their path. And I think that's the thing, is to encourage people, listen, there is a different way. Listen, you can make this happen. It's going to take a little bit of work, and it's going to take a little bit of self-discipline. All of these things we talk about take some self-discipline and some willingness to change. And you're right. Some people feel, I'm so buried, where am I going to go? So saying, listen, we're here to help. One of the things I want to just sidetrack a little bit. One of the things that I want to do also is, my services aren't always for fees. I want to help some of the elderly and some of the United Way organizations that take really people who are in tough, dire straits, that need all the help they can, and do some things with those folks. It's actually far more satisfying to do that than it is to go put on a seminar and get paid for it. I mean, It's nice to get paid, but if you can walk away with a little smile on your face, wanting no attention for knowing that you made life better for somebody else, my gosh, there's no better feeling than that. And so doing those kinds of things is meaningful and pays its own little rewards to you in non-monetary ways.
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with that, Jack. Well, Jack, congratulations on your retirement. Thank you so much for taking us through your thought process for becoming retired, and also what you're going to be doing in the future. It sounds amazing, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon to catch up.
All right, Jeff, great. And a lot of people appreciate the information that you push out every single day. I click on and read the interesting tabs every day, and web links every day, and learn much from what you post. So appreciate your work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and more, check out today's edition of our newsletter, The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.